Wars. It is more than just a successful movie, it is a box office phenomenon. With mind-boggling special effects. The film is breaking attendance records all over the country.
That's Star Wars. It's old-fashioned, escapist entertainment, pure and simple.
Star Wars is an epic space opera franchise created by George Lucas, which began with the eponymous 1977 film and quickly became a worldwide pop culture phenomenon. The franchise has been expanded into various films and other media, including television series, video games, novels, comic books, theme park attractions and merchandise comprising an all-encompassing fictional universe. But surely what made this franchise so great for more than 40 years of existence were the toys. Action figures, stuffed animals, board games, lunch boxes and countless other items were created under the Star Wars license. Without any doubt, the brand's most iconic line of toys is the vintage action figure line. In this documentary, we will not only explore the history of the film and the toys inspired by it, but we will also discover the history of the company that created them, while enjoying the complete collection of vintage action figures, filmed in high definition. This is not only the story of a great toy line. This is the story of the toy line that started it all. Some people call the 1970s the transitional decade. Things were particularly strange in those years, and the reason for this is the special location of the period between the very over-determined 1960s and the louder icons that came to light in the late 1970s, such as disco and punk, Atari and Taxi Driver, and the arrival of the personal stereo, better known as the Walkman. The 70s were a troubled time. In some ways, it was a continuation of the 1960s with its rebelliousness, inherited from the Vietnam War and skepticism generated by the Watergate trauma. The oil crisis of the late 1970s brought more attention to conservation. By then, environmentalism was so common that Woodsy Owl of the U.S. Forest Service interrupted the Saturday morning cartoons to remind children not to pollute the environment. People looked to the private sphere, and society experienced significant changes in their attitudes during these years. Many withdrew from politics, and the distrust of authority turned people to pop culture. It's the decade that launched the cable TV, the Brady Bunch and the Smiley Face. People listened to 8-track tapes of Jackson Browne, Olivia Newton-John, Donna Summer and Marvin Gaye. Long hair and outrageous clothing became the norm. Bell-bottom pants, flowing maxi dresses, ponchos and frayed jeans dominated 1970s fashion. Although the 1970s opened with Hollywood experiencing a financial and artistic depression, the decade became a creative high point in the U.S. film industry. A new generation of filmmakers arose and let Hollywood to be freer, to take more risks, and to experiment with alternative films.
A good many people who've had their fill of telephone bills and all other aspects of reality are finding a futuristic way of putting their problems aside for a while.
Among these young filmmakers was a young director named George Lucas, who had directed a low-budget film called American Graffiti in 1973, loosely based on his youth in Modesto, California. However, the novice director had a crazy idea for a space opera that was far, far away from that first film.
Is that it's a positive film, it has heroes and villains, and that it essentially is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Star Wars may be one of the biggest film franchises now, but the original Star Wars was an enormous risk. Some claim that the film had one of the most troubled productions in Hollywood history. Once Lucas managed to find a studio willing to invest in the film, to achieve the intended visual effects, he had to create his own company to produce them. During production he had to struggle with some team members who did not take the material seriously, believing that they were only making a children's movie. Filming in Tunisia was also a nightmare for Lucas. The location saw a freak rainstorm, its worst in 50 years. Nonetheless, after 3 years of production, Lucas and his entire team successfully completed the film.
The first of what the makers of Star Wars hope will be thousands of queues started forming at 7 a.m. outside London's Dominion Cinema. Brought out by a publicity campaign of unprecedented proportions, the audience knew what they were after.
Well, we wanted to get in and see it on the only unreserved show, and it's booked through on the bookable shows right until March, and we couldn't afford to wait that long. And the prestige of being able to say you've seen Star Wars is something akin to royalty, really.
In a galaxy far, far away. Here they come. Star Wars.
Released in 1977, Star Wars ushered in a new era of movie making with its special effects, fantastical world building and engrossing blend of myth and fairy tale. Although the final budget was $11 million, the film grossed more than $513 million worldwide during its original release, setting the stage for a franchise that would span decades and create generations of fans across the world, all connected by a common love for a galaxy far, far away.
Star Wars, rated PG.
Everything was fantastic. Whoever wrote it had a fantastic imagination.
I think it was good.
Just good?
No, fantastic. It was exciting, but I didn't like the bit when the man chopped off the person's arm.
Why not?
Because there was blood.
Oh, but don't we like blood?
No.
The film was a complete success, and the public was very excited and eager for more Star Wars, but the genius of the film did not remain on the big screen. From its origins, George Lucas had designed a strategy so that if the film was successful, that success would not be limited to the box office, but would expand to other areas. One of those areas was merchandising and toys.
One of the things is a mask that I'm holding. There's a line of 4 masks, a Stormtrooper, C-3PO, Darth Vader, and Chewbacca, and also with his mouth open and with his mouth closed. These are out now in the stores. There's also a children's costume line out. The t-shirts and posters have been out since June. This is a Darth Vader. This will be out shortly. It's being shipped now. And this is one of the heat transfer shirts that's been out since, one of a series of 4 that's been out since July. And tremendous reception. Everybody's buying these things like hotcakes. We've got lunch boxes out. We've sold 86,000 lunch boxes in the month of August. The bubblegum cards are out. Thousands of cases of bubblegum cards. The children's costumes, 35,000 dozen. It goes on and on. For Christmas, we're going to have a Star Wars digital watch that Texas Instruments is putting out. Kenner Products, which is part of General Mills, is coming out with the initial line of Star Wars toys, which is a board game that's called Escape from the Death Star. Will be out in October. 4 jigsaw puzzles, paint by number sets. That's just the beginning. There are 50 items in the line, including a Star Wars toothbrush.
Pepper's ads that.
Meanwhile, we'll be seeing our Star Wars heroes and villains in other forms too, even before the film itself. We'll be seeing them in the shape of orange-flavoured marshmallows here, all the different characters that you'll get to know when you've seen the film. There's some bubble bath here with galactic bubbles, make your bath time really exciting, and the soaps in different characters. There are jigsaw puzzles too, one of the characters here, Chewbacca with Han Solo, and of course, must have the book of the film. And up here there's a Star Wars scrapbook, there's space notes here and memory bank, they're notebooks, the inevitable poster, more posters here, and these look fun. These are transfers of the different characters with the instructions here, and of course the double LP of the show. Lovely music, and this is a splendid cover here. In the centre you've got all the photos of different scenes there, and a rather nice plain cover. And I'm sure the message which you will get, whether you like it or not, may the Force be with you.
It was precisely Lucas's idea to create toys inspired by the concept art of his film. Although some television series such as The $6 Million Man had managed to launch a successful line of toys. Until then, a movie had never done it, and it seemed like a very big risk. Worse still, in an attempt to keep the film's production a secret, Lucas had allowed just 6 months before the release for a toy company to design and produce a line of action figures, a very complex process that usually takes 1 or 2 years. Curiously, all the major toy companies, including Mego, Mattel, Parker Brothers and Hasbro, rejected Lucas's daring proposal. However, the last one, a small company known as Kenner, accepted the challenge. Kenner Products was founded in 1946 by the Steiner brothers, Albert, Philip, and Joseph, all of them from Cincinnati, Ohio. Initially conceived as a soap and detergent powder manufacturer, in the 1950s they went on to make toys with the launch of the Bubble-O-Matic, a gun that fired bubbles. It was followed by other children's products such as plastic constructions, kitchen ovens like the Easy Bake Oven, and the Spirograph in 1966. Kenner is considered one of the pioneers in the sector, in promoting herself on television with a very catchy slogan.
Kenner! It's fun! Ah!
The company was acquired in 1967 by General Mills, owners of licenses such as Play-Doh. 3 years later, the General Mills toy segment was divided as follows: Kenner for action figures, under the chairmanship of CEO Bernard Loomis, and Parker Brothers for board games. In the mid-1970s, his greatest successes were the Stretch Armstrong doll and the $6 Million Man action figures.
Kenner's Bionic Woman comes with everything seen here. Mission versus assembly required.
It was the acquisition of the license to produce the Star Wars toys that really revolutionized Kenner's life. From one moment to the next, that small company of Cincinnati began to play in the big leagues of the toy industry.
Star Wars truly is forever.
To some extent, luck played a major role in Kenner's fate. On the staff of the rudimentary Kenner Toy Company were some sci-fi fans who had been following Lucas's career and saw potential in his Star Wars script. The deal they made with Lucas and 20th Century Fox, which handled the Star Wars licenses, was not entirely profitable for Lucas, although it was for Kenner. For every dollar sold Star Wars toys, only 1 nickel was divided for Lucas and Fox. Still, Kenner had a problem. Although he already had the merchandising deal in his possession, Star Wars was only a month away from theaters. For that reason, prior to the launch of the action figure line, Kenner creatives had to resort to what is known as label overlap to temporarily satiate the market. This practice consists of retrofitting toys from other lines, changing their stickers with the Star Wars logo on them. By Christmas 1977, Star Wars had become the highest-grossing film of all time, and Kenner still had no toys to sell, with the exception of some puzzles, board games, and paint sets.
Star Wars has beamed in on the psyche of America's children and is compelling Santas across the nation to reach for their wallets as Christmas approaches.
What do you want for Christmas?
What many kids want are toys inspired by the movie. Official Star Wars toys are produced by the Kenner Company of Cincinnati, and in toy stores now are such Kenner items as Star Wars games and puzzles. But the typical red-blooded outer-spaced American kid wants to find the personnel of the movie under the Christmas tree.
The reality was that Kenner was unprepared for the unprecedented response to the film and the high demand for toys, mainly due to George Lucas's unwillingness to provide character and vehicle designs, for fear his creations would be plagiarized by competitors.
Now that most parents are beginning to think seriously about the toys they're going to get their kids for Christmas, they'll find science fiction toys are being pushed hard. A lot of that is due to the success of the movie Star Wars, but that's also causing trouble.
They instead sold an early bird certificate package, which included a certificate which could be mailed to Kenner and redeemed for 4 Star Wars action figures.
Goods in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate to send in to get a set of figures by mail. They'll be sent to you at home between February 1st and June 1st. The Star Wars Early Bird Certificate Package, new from Kenner.
Great, huh, kids?
Yeah.
Yep, but you can't have them. Not now and not at Christmas time. Although there are plenty of science fiction figurines in the stores, and although some of them look like the Star Wars characters, the official Kenner Star Wars models are still in production in the Orient and won't be ready for several months. But Kenner has found a solution of sorts. Christmas morning, millions of American youngsters will look under the tree and find cardboard folders containing a certificate worth 4 Star Wars models. No laser gun is provided to help open the cardboard folder, a project that could take months. Here are the directions. Instruction number 3 tells you to mail in the certificate. Instruction number 4 tells you to set up the display stand for the Star Wars figures. And instruction number 5 tells you that between February 1st and June 1st, 1978, you'll receive your set of 4 figures. By then, of course, the stage set is likely to be shredded cardboard, and Mom and Dad are likely to be a little tired of hearing the youngsters saying, "Have they come yet?" And they'll be ready for a little outer galactic solitude. Stephen Gear, ABC News, somewhere in Toyland.
The idea seemed daring at first, and although it was destined to fail, it surprisingly paid off. Thousands of children received that certificate as a Christmas gift, awaiting the figures that would arrive a few months later. The first 4 figures to be distributed were Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and R2-D2. The box also contains a diorama display stand, some stickers, and a Star Wars fan club card. The Star Wars action figures are made of plastic, smaller than 4 inches, and are typically posable at 5 points on their bodies. They were produced along with vehicles and playsets based on the Star Wars movies.
The unlikely center of every little boy's space-age universe is the Palatoy factory at Colville in Leicestershire. Here, the women are riveted to one of the busiest production lines in the trade. The staff here has just about doubled to meet the demand.
The majority of figures were packaged individually attached to cardbacks in a plastic blister. By the time Kenner's action figures finally materialized for purchase, it was spring 1978, nearly a year after Star Wars had hit theaters. And still, toys flew off store shelves.
Been very hot here. Our very first day the new store on 5th Avenue was open. We sold out in 3 hours of everything we had, but we keep trying to get more, and we have more now.
Figures were sold on cardbacks with Star Wars designs from '77 through to 1980.
This year, a lot of kids are asking their parents for space toys for Christmas, and the demand is having a tremendous effect on the toy industry. Industry-wide sales are up by almost 8%, most of the increase attributable to the space toys craze. But Cincinnati-based Kenner Corporation sales are up 40%, and Kenner officials say the movie Star Wars is responsible. Last year, Kenner won the rights to manufacture toys based on the movie, paying millions in royalties. But Kenner says it'll pay off. They've shipped over 30 million Star Wars toys this season, and they're firmly convinced the craze could last for years.
The attitude we're taking in our planning is that George Lucas has created this marvelous fantasy world, peopled by all kinds of droids and exciting creatures, and we think that it could be another Disney. Maybe 50 years from now, they'll be celebrating R2-D2's 50th anniversary.
Many toy lines have tried to duplicate Disney's success. All have failed. But even if R2-D2 doesn't become another Mickey Mouse, it's made a very Merry Christmas for the toy industry. Rob North for ABC News.
By the time the action figures were offered for direct sale in shops, the range had been augmented with a further 8 figures, bringing the total number of figures in the initial release to 12.
With that certain picture packing them in worldwide, toy producers haven't been slow to take the hint. Star Wars has brought more bizarre costumes to the screen than even Hollywood can remember. Mums and dads are in for some visual shock when they go toy shopping this year.
Demand for the action figures and accessories was such that Kenner continued to have difficulty fulfilling demand. Shortages of the toys in the lead up to Christmas 1978 led some to claim that Kenner was deliberately manipulating the market. Sales of Kenner's Star Wars range in 1978 reached 40 million units, accounting for a revenue of $100 million.
From
Wars mini action figure collector's case. Action figures sold separately. The collector's case holds 24 Star Wars action figures, like Stormtrooper, R5-D4, and Snaggletooth. It comes with 2 plastic trays to keep them in, or you can turn the trays over and display all your figures in action poses. You can pack up Star Wars action figures and take them with you.
The Star Wars Mini Action Figure Collector's Case. Action figures each sold separately. From Kenner.
As well as the figures, there were also a multitude of classic and beloved Star Wars ships and vehicles. Many of them even more iconic than the characters in the movies, such as Luke's Landspeeder or the famous Millennium Falcon. Marketing for Star Wars was essentially focused on the relationship between pop culture and toys.
The first 2 pictures in the middle Star Wars trilogy have grossed nearly $2/3 of $1 billion at the box office worldwide and have sold over $2 billion worth of Star Wars related merchandise. Yet, George...
The TV ads were aimed at explaining to children how they should play with toys.
It's the new Star Wars Land of the Jawas that you put together. Action figures sold separately. You can move the action lever and make the Jawa capture R2-D2.
R2, are you all right? What are they doing to you?
You can raise the elevator and make R2-D2 disappear into the sandcrawler.
Hang on, R2. I'm right behind you. Me too.
Kenner's new Star Wars Land of the Jawas. Action figures each sold separately.
In the same way, the action figure cards encourage parents and children to collect all the figures with the famous phrase, "Collect them all." As the new models were released, the back of the cards was updated. Finally, by cutting out the proof of purchase, it was possible to exchange it for a new figure that was sent by mail to the sender some time later.
It's New Zucker, 4 LOM, an Imperial TIE Fighter pilot, 3 of 48 action figures from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, each sold separately. And now, from Star Wars New Revenge of the Jedi collection, it's Admiral Akbar, not yet available in any store, but free with 6 proofs of purchase. For many Star Wars action figures, details on specially marked packs at participating stores. Offer expires January 31st, 1980.
In the anticipation of the release of the sequel movie The Empire Strikes Back, Kenner offered its first mail-in promotion, in which 4 proof of purchases could be redeemed for a new action figure, Boba Fett. This figure was originally intended to feature a backpack with a firing missile, but this was abandoned due to safety concerns.
What do you want to do tonight? Oh, and if you say see Star Wars again, I'm leaving.
You don't want to leave.
You know, 3 years later, everybody comes back to work, and everybody's sort of more enthusiastic than they were the first time. The first time everybody was very confused by the whole thing and didn't know what they were up against. Now they had a better picture of what it was we were making. You know, it was fun to get started again.
There's a new dance.
Despite the fact that the success of the first installment of the franchise was resounding, the litmus test would be if the sequel really matched the success of its predecessor.
Avenue shortly after noon on Tuesday. By 9 at night, the line encompassed several dozen people. The all-night vigil ends Wednesday morning at 11 when these people finally get to buy tickets to the first showing of The Empire Strikes Back. Do you think this is going to be as big as Star Wars?
Bigger! Bigger!
And yet a lot of the critics are panning it.
Well, what do they know?
Are you going to be missing any classes by being out here?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm hoping this to be as good as Star Wars, and I enjoyed Star Wars, so I figured this to be a good experience.
This is not just a movie. It's Empire Strikes Back.
The big question mark is whether the Force is still strong enough to make the Empire as successful as Star Wars. If not, the future of the whole series could be lost in space. Gene Cubison, News 8, East San Diego.
Left me confused. Didn't understand any of it.
Special effects were tremendous. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't like the ending. It could have been a better ending.
Did you shoot more than one ending?
No. This was the ending. The ending may jar them only because they saw Star Wars 1 and there was a triumphant ending.
Although there were a few who criticized the cliffhanger, the film not only exceeded expectations, but also managed to consolidate Star Wars as a successful and one-of-a-kind franchise.
Came out of the movie. What do you think?
It was a fantastic movie. They cut it short, though. There was no real ending to it, but it was a great movie. Great movie. A lot of things happen fast. A lot of things happen very fast.
You think you'll see it again?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I loved it.
Cindy, you saw the movie. What do you think?
I thought it was real good. Real good. A lot of new characters, very interesting.
I was really surprised and everything. You know, I really thought that the sequel, you know, maybe wouldn't have been up to par, but it really wasn't. It was really good. It's a nice beginning to a new religion.
It was fantastic.
I like that. Force be with you.
Needless to say, Kenner enjoyed the success of the film by selling the toys widely.
"30 million of you have seen the film. Many will have read the book. Now buy the toys." Or at least that's what 10 million people in this country have done in the last 4 years. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and the rest have outsold the amazing Rubik Cube. So why are they so successful?
it's not just the teasing itself, it's really what they're able to do with the toy. I mean, half of it is in their mind. I mean, it's not just the play action of the toy, which happens to be very good, but it's also what they're able to fantasize as they recreate the Star Wars adventure in their own playroom.
The toy wars have already been won this year before a single advertising shot is fired. 5 million of these will have been sold by Christmas. But are Star Wars products going to have the durability of, say, that old favourite, the teddy bear?
In fact, it'll be here 50 years from now, and I imagine that the teddy bear will be. But as a branded product, it will probably outlive most products that you see on the market.
Now a sneak preview. Admiral Akbar will be appearing in the next Star Wars film, The Revenge of the Jedi. Will he survive? I'm not saying. But may the Force be with him. Bharat Patel in Colville for Central News.
Variations exist for most of the different figures. These can range from major resculpts and differences in accessories supplied with the figures to differences in paint detailing, for instance in hair color, or differences in sculpting materials. Some variations command higher prices in the collector market due to relative scarcity. The lightsaber-wielding characters originally featured a double telescoping saber mechanism. This was changed to a single telescoping mechanism early in 1978. Early Jawa figures were released with a vinyl cape similar to that of Ben Kenobi. This was later changed to a fabric cloak.
And at Mile High Comics in Thornton, a rare Jawa figure. How much?
$3,000.
Star Wars folks must be laughing all the way to the bank.
The Sears exclusive Cantina Adventure playset contains 4 action figures. The Snaggletooth figure initially included wears a blue outfit with silver disco-style boots and is about the same size as the Luke and Han figures. Upon George Lucas's request, this blue Snaggletooth was subsequently corrected to represent the character as actually featured in the movie, and a resculpted shorter, barefoot, red outfitted figure was released. Variations exist for each of the card back fronts. These range from differences in promotional offer stickers applied to the card to differences in the photograph illustrating the character. Similarly, variations exist for all of the card back rear designs, with the exceptions of the 47 back and 92 back designs that were only available in a single version. To this day, there are 57 different cardback front-rear combinations recognized. This does not include figures released through overseas companies or the Droids or Ewoks ranges.
Star Wars was without a doubt Hollywood's biggest blockbuster movie, so Hollywood figured why stop at just one Star Wars epic? The Empire Strikes Back will hit San Diego theaters like a laser blast when the movie starts its run May 21st. Pacific Cinerama Theater is anticipating sellout crowds almost nightly. And with the renewed interest in Star Wars, toy stores are stocking up on all those Star Wars toys kids bought just a few years ago.
I would say that Star Wars has almost become a line. It's not just a fad. It's Star Wars and space are now a line of toys. It's as much a part of being a toy as buying trucks. It's much a part of the toy business.
And LeBoy adds the folks who make all those toys have come out with a new line of Star Wars characters to make your collection complete.
We've got the whole new set of the third generation of Star Wars figures. There's Leia in a new gown. Lando Carlson, I guess is how you pronounce his name. I believe he's a villain. He's played by Billy D. Williams. Stormtrooper in a new outfit. Han Solo in a new outfit. One of the rebel soldiers. Luke Skywalker in some fatigues, and people are really excited about him, and so are we.
And Hollywood says, don't be surprised that if in the not-too-distant future you'll be bombarded with still another sequel to Star Wars. Jesse Macias, News 8, Claremont Mesa.
The year is 1978, and Palatoy bring you Star Wars here on Death Star.
Star Wars figures were offered for sale in a number of countries outside of the US. These were usually sold through other companies, many of which were also subsidiaries of General Mills.
Here on Death Star, Ben Kenobi combats the awesome power of Darth Vader, while Han and Leia battle for their lives in the trash compactor. Luke evades the stormtroopers with R2, D2, and C-3PO. But can he escape in the X-Wing fighter? Only you will know. Only you can create your own Star Wars. Death Star, vehicles, figures, all sold separately. May the Force...
In the UK, the Star Wars license was held by Paladoi, which imported the figures and packaged them in the UK on Paladoi branded cardbacks. Analogous arrangements were in place in Spain with the company Poch, in France with Meccano, in the Benelux countries with Clipper, in Germany with Parker, in Italy with Harbert, and in Scandinavia with Brio Playmix.
Only you can decide. The new Paladoi Star Wars models.
In Japan, the line was first controlled by the company Takara, then by Popey and finally by Tsukuda. The license was acquired in Australia by Toltoys, while in Mexico it was held by Lily Ledy, in Brazil by Glasslight, and in Argentina by Top Toys.
Una nueva guerra con nuevas miniaturas de las galaxias. Otro éxito de Top Toys.
Okay, Peter.
Some people would have assumed that the Star Wars toys was a faddish thing like the hula hoop or so forth that would be here today and gone tomorrow. That hasn't been the case.
No, not at all. Star Wars, in fact, has become almost a staple category. And as long as they continue to make the movies over the next 20 to 25 years, we envision it being a staple category.
And space itself has become a big toy category.
Space has become a very big toy category. Took over for what at one time was cowboys and Indians and one time was military, has now become space.
What have you got? You got some toys already? Star Wars toys already?
Yes. We have the land speeder. We have some of the men.
You have Princess Leia?
Yeah.
You do? What do you got?
Darth Vader.
The product has been extremely good. Our returns have been minimal, and I think this is attributed to the manufacturers taking the time before they put the product out to make sure that there was some quality control in it.
Do they play with them or are they fed?
Yeah, they do. They use them, the people. They make up their own sets with them. We don't have any of the big units, that come. But they play with the people a lot. They make their own sets with the coffee table, with the couch, they hide them and stuff like that.
Once the movies are released, there's a tremendous impact, and of course just about any product that has Star Wars is gobbled off the shelf. The longer the movie runs, then of course you hit some flat spots, and people are more particular about the product. I think you're going to find that with the release of the Empire, that the children are going to come out, and the teenagers, if you will, are going to be looking for product tied in directly to The Empire Strikes Back. But eventually that will flatten out, and then we'll wait for the next sequel.
I have found them to be quite durable. Most of the small figures have lasted, from a year ago Christmas, and then we filled in again this Christmas. John has the Battle Cruiser, and he has the 2XL computer. I don't know, he can probably tell you, with 3 kids, he can probably tell you more about what he has.
I think they did a sensational job. Not just the quality, but if you look at the detail in the product, and the fact that they were able to build a lot of character, not only in the actual characters in the movie, but in the toy themselves. If you look at some of the items, you'll see what I'm talking about.
So that Lucas was in effect a genius as far as toy characters.
Well, I wouldn't be the first person to say that Lucas was a genius, but yes, he was a genius in the design of this particular,
These are toys. These are little men. This is Greedo, and then this is Hammerhead. See, this is Walrus Man, and then this is Snaggletooth, and this is Lando Calrissian. See? And this is Boba Fett. And look, they can even have wars. Look at this.
Well, we keep them in separate boxes, so he still drags them out and sets his battle cruiser up and has all his little figures. As I say, they have withstood 4, 5, and 6-year-old boys. So.
Well, let me ask you, sir. Let's get your opinion of these toys and also the movie. You saw Star Wars, I guess.
I didn't see much of it, but I saw half of it at my friend's house. He has a tape of it, and they switched it to another part of it, so I didn't get to see all of it.
How about the toys? You still like playing with the toys? What do you do with them?
I really take care of them.
Okay, but the first year when the movie was out, big sales, but then there wasn't a peak and a tapering off. It kind of stayed up there.
Well, at that particular point, there was a limited amount of product available. They were not trying to rush everything onto the market, and there was a tremendous rush for the figures. As the following year, as more product became available, there was still, at that time, they were still having lines getting the movie 6 months after it opened. There was still a tremendous rush for product. It took about a year and a half for it to flatten out, and then they re-released the movie after they pulled it. These people are very bright, and when they re-released the movie, we saw another surge in product. They developed more product from the movie. Finally, last year, the entire category flattened out, and I did not go bad on it. We hit flat spots in the sales. Now we're seeing a general increase, and of course, there's a lot more product coming up that'll be on the shelves in the next few weeks and a few months.
No, it's for my 8-year-old son.
He likes the stuff?
He loves it. He's very eager to see the Empire Strikes Back, which I know starts today.
Can he get you to wait in line to take him to see it?
Sure. I want to see it myself.
Well, how about the older kids your age? I mean, nobody's collecting them like, as a fad or anything?
No one.
It's an action toy. It's a unisex toy, if you will, a category. And it's a staple as a category. There's no individual item that would be a staple, so to speak, because you're going to find that with the changing of the sequence of the movies, there's going to be new characters introduced, and these other characters will eventually die out. So it'll be the Star Wars theme carried through. Whereas Barbie doll is Barbie doll. I mean, when you change Barbie and Barbie gets a little bigger, maybe she gets a better tan, but it's still Barbie doll. I don't think anybody knows exactly what kind of product we're going to be looking at in 6, 7, 8, 10 years in Star Wars, but there certainly will be new characters at that time.
And you imagine there'll still be Star Wars on the shelf if he keeps putting out this movies?
I'm sure there'll be Star Wars merchandise around for at least another 25 or 30 years.
Okay. Star Wars has been very good to Kenner, which makes most of the toys and the play sets. They sold 40 million units in 1978, another 40 million in 1979. With the new movie, they should sell even more this year. It's enough to make your head spin. Right, R2-D2?
Kenner's ideas for a Star Wars toy line weren't always successful. In 1978, Kenner released a line of action figures in the 12-inch scale. Unfortunately, by the late 1970s, figures of that size, which had for some time been the industry standard, were beginning to see a decline in popularity, and the line was later cancelled.
Plans are safe and the stormtroopers got. Thanks, Han. I didn't get this medal for nothing.
Large-size Stormtrooper R2-D2 C-3PO Han Solo, each sold separately from Kenner.
Also, in 1982, Kenner released the Star Wars Micro Collection. It was a die-cast series of small playsets, vehicles, and figures. The intention was to sell them at the same time as the regular line of action figures. Sets could be combined with other similarly themed sets to create a larger play set. Although it was a beautiful collection, it did not have the expected success, and it was cancelled before the release of the last film in the series, The Return of the Jedi.
Here at the Esquire Theater, because at 12:01 a.m. Wednesday morning, the first official showing of The Return of the Jedi rolls onto the big screen. The Force of the Jedi cast its spell on Chicago's sold-out audiences throughout the dawning hours. By 8 a.m., over 9,000 starstruck fans shared the new secrets of the Empire. The Galactic Faithful gathered in droves to put on a show to rival the epic featured inside. For some, the verdict is already in.
The biggest surprise was to see all of them together at the end playing pinochle and having a great time. I wished I was there, and I'm going to try to get a part of the next movie myself.
This has left me practically utterly speechless, actually, but it was the best one ever.
The big surprise was seeing Darth Vader unveil himself to his son. It was very exciting.
The biggest surprise? Well, I don't want to give it away to anybody. Do you think it was worth coming to this late at night?
Yeah.
Good over evil, always.
The movie was perfect. It was exactly the way it had to be. It was a fantastic movie, but it was good. It was really, really good.
It's finally here. The Return of the Jedi, Part 3 of the Star Wars film phenomenon, which will open nationally tomorrow. And as Mike Jensen reports tonight, hundreds of companies are involved in the Jedi film. For them, the phrase, "May the Force be with you," means let the money roll in.
Actor Mark Hamill arriving for a preview showing of Return of the Jedi. Actress Carrie Fisher. Inside, an assault on the senses by this third in the Star Wars trilogy, the most expensive yet, $8 million worth of special effects alone. But that's only the beginning. Merchandise tie-ins have brought an additional $2 billion in retail sales. And this third movie in the series, Return of the Jedi, is bringing with it the biggest merchandise and promotional blitz ever to come out of Hollywood. Kenner Products is introducing 17 new Jedi figures, 3 new spacecraft. It's spending $12 million to promote them. Lucasfilm, which produced Return of the Jedi, gets a royalty for every product tie-in.
About Return of the Jedi.
Burger King expects to sell 16 million Jedi glasses for 49 cents each and increase its sales by 7 to 10%.
Right now we have over $8 million in our Return of the Jedi glasses in our warehouses, and we're spending about $7 million on the airwaves to promote the program.
And all over the country, Star Wars fans have been waiting in line for tickets to tomorrow's opening of Return of the Jedi, to be followed by an avalanche of new merchandise to feed their heroic fantasy. Mike Jensen, NBC News, New York. Another area where Twin City businesses will share in the Jedi Bonanza, the licensing and merchandising of Star Wars products, all the way from an operating Darth Vader speakerphone through records, clothing, food, and of course, toys, where the Twin Cities' own General Mills is a leader.
For the General Mills toy companies, for example, that includes Parker Brothers, Fundimensions, and Kenner, the total Star Wars sale is in excess of $100 million per year. We've sold well over 100 million of the small action figures since 1978, and really a total of about 150 million Star Wars toys total since this phenomenon began. When Lucas came to us back in '77, and after a couple of 3 toy companies had turned him down, and we said, it really doesn't matter if the movie is a success or not. These are toys.
What do you think those people are doing today who turned him down?
I don't know. Maybe they're looking for jobs in some other industry. I think that George Lucas is probably the world's greatest toy inventor.
Whether that particular title is true or not, you'll find entrepreneurs in several areas of endeavor willing to concede that indeed there is something very special about George Lucas, creator of the Star Wars phenomenon.
The success of Star Wars toys continued for some time after the return of the Jedi. However, there was already more competition. Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, and the recent launch of the Transformers began to leave the Star Wars fever behind.
All the hullabaloo about Coleco's Cabbage Patch Kids has actually taken some of the heat off of a competitor who's also having trouble keeping a couple of very popular toys on the shelves. The toys are stuffed Ewoks and stuffed Care Bears. If you can find one, you probably can't find the other, except in miniature, which many parents are buying in lieu of the stuffed Care Bears kids really care about. Both the Bears and the Ewoks are Kenner products. Why didn't Kenner's research supply enough for the demand?
You can do all the market testing, you can do all the studies, but until that toy is out there and until it really gets into the hands of the kids, you have no way of knowing.
Though Ewoks are selling, other stuffed Star Wars figures bombed a few years ago.
And so when we brought out the stuffed Ewok, we were conservative in the manufacturing, just as the retailers were conservative in their ordering.
And ordering is done back in the spring. It's just too late now to crank out all the toys the company could sell. But it's also part of the toy game.
And kids are so fickle, and the toy market is such that it changes each year, that you really need to create the toys and sell the toys when the toys are hot.
But this year, many parents are hot about the most wanted toys that nobody's got. Jack Helsel, Channel 5, Action News Tonight.
The Star Wars phenomenon seemed to be coming to an end, and although Kenner had new concepts in the works, George Lucas stated that he had no plans to release any more films. Despite this, Kenner tried to relaunch the line under the name Power of the Force, including 15 new figures, and continue with the production of the rest of the figures, but this time accompanied by a collectible coin. However, the effort was not enough to revive the franchise.
It goes without saying, toys were high on the consumer Christmas list. Of course, if you had stock in Coleco and Hasbro, chances are you made a lot of money this year. Transformers and Cabbage Patch Kids were the hottest selling items in Texas. On the other hand, G.I. Joe never got out of the trenches this year, and Star Wars toys really never got off the ground. 7 years after the release of the original movie, the Force isn't with them anymore.
Star Wars has been around a long time, and it's beginning to lose a little bit of its appeal with the kids. G.I. Joe is kind of the same direction. It still sells well, but just doesn't sell as well as it used to.
Although the excitement of the franchise was finished, Kenner was not resigned to leaving the business. For this reason, it launched 2 new lines of action figures to accompany a 2 new series of cartoons based on the droids and the Ewoks. The droids range comprised 12 figures, 2 of which were identical to figures from the main Star Wars line, and the Ewoks line comprised 6 figures. However, both animations did not last long, and the line was forgotten, leaving several interesting concepts without producing. One of these concepts was only produced in Brazil, and is today one of the most expensive figures in the entire line. By 1986, Kenner's line of action figures had finally ended, leaving a total of 100 figures, numerous ships and playsets, but above all, many happy memories for millions of children around the world. For many years nothing was put up for sale except a few bendable figures. Until finally, in 1995, the Force returned to toy stores around the world.
Yep, it's been 20 years.
Boy, how time flies, huh?
Wow.
The souvenir mania is already at warp speed.
It has not only gotten cash registers ringing at the box office.
All right, get out your lightsaber. Hype surrounding this movie has been overwhelming.
Live from Mecca, the holy grail, if you will, for Star Wars fans, the front of the line.
We started lining up over a month ago.
It's like 1977. I haven't felt this since 1977.
Do you want to do Star Wars? They said I said too fucking right.
The relaunch of the original trilogy and the new episode of the Star Wars saga revived the phenomenon of action figures that, although never recovered the level of sales of those distant 70s and 80s, continues to this day.
TV. Hasbro reports current sales of the hot-selling action figures are outpacing Christmas-time numbers.
It's going to be the biggest movie of the year, probably. It's got intergenerational stuff. It's got kids and parents and all sorts of stuff.
Let's go, and don't forget the droid. We're on our way. Industry watchers believe the re-release of the movie trilogy and sales of Star Wars merchandise may make more than $1 billion in new revenue.
On sale at midnight, Toys R Us and other stores stayed open all night to accommodate the crowds. This store sold more than $22,000 during the first 2 hours. That is more than they usually sell all day.
In many cases, parents are passing on their passion for the Force to their children.
It's a phenomenon. It's beyond Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind.
With new movies and series produced by Disney and Star Wars toys manufactured by Hasbro, the Star Wars franchise continues to be present in stores, and especially in the hearts of new generations, eager to continue dreaming of that galaxy far, far away, that George Lucas gave us a long time ago.
You know, it is my life. I
I mean, everything I write is my life. I'm not writing some sort of hypothetical thesis on something. I'm writing a story that I have to get extremely emotional involved in because it's going to take 2 or 3 years of my life to do it.
This is the idea of George Lucas, a man who wrote...
Star Wars is for many people one of the best movies in history. From Tokyo to Buenos Aires, and from Chicago to Sydney, the wonderful story created by George Lucas during the tumultuous 1970s represents for some fans almost a religion. But for the toy industry, it was a turning point. Kenner's line of action figures was the spark that sparked the toy craze of the 1980s.
The strength of the Force! You cannot hide! I'm a Jedi Knight, and the Force is the strongest power in the universe! Your powers are weakening, Vader, but the Force is strong in me! I can feel it!
Feel the Force with Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi Collection. Figures, vehicles, and playsets each sold separately, only from Kenner.
Transformers, He-Man, Superpowers, Ghostbusters, G.I. Joe and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles undoubtedly owe much of the success to this line of figures created by a small company from Cincinnati, Ohio. Star Wars was nothing more and nothing less than the line that started it all.
One thing I discovered along the way is that pleasure is short-lived. It lasts an hour, lasts a minute, lasts a month, and it peaks and then goes down. It peaks very high. But the next time you want to get that same peak, you have to do it twice as much. You know, it's like drugs. You know, you have to keep doing it because it insulates itself, no matter what it is. Whether you're shopping, whether you're, engaged in any other kind of pleasure, that all has the same quality about it. On the other hand is joy, and joy is a thing that doesn't go as high as pleasure in terms of your emotional reaction, but it stays with you. Joy is something you can recall. Pleasure you can't. So the secret is that even though it's not as intense as the pleasure, the joy will last you a lot longer. And people who get the pleasure, they keep saying, well, if I can just get richer and get more cars, you'll never relive the moment you got your first car. That's it. That's the highest peak. Just accept the fact that it's here and it's gone. And maybe again it'll come back and you'll get to do it again. Joy lasts forever. Pleasure is purely self-centered. It's all about your pleasure. It's about you. It's a selfish, self-centered emotion that's created by a self-centered motive of greed. Joy is compassion. Joy is giving yourself to somebody else or something else. And it's a kind of thing that is, in its subtlety and lowness, much more powerful than pleasure. If you get hung up on pleasure, you're doomed. If you pursue joy, you will find everlasting happiness.